Good morning, folks. We're about to start the press conference. As you saw in the media advisory, it's the first joint UN press conference here in Somalia for the year. We have with us the UN Secretary General Special Representative for Somalia, James Swan, who is also the head of UNSOM. We have with us Abdelmoula, the UN Secretary General's Deputy Special Representative for Somalia, who is also the UN Resident Coordinator and Humanitarian Coordinator. And we have in Nairobi, Lisa Filipetto, who is the head of UNSOS, the UN Support Office here in Somalia. A quick reminder, one question per person to begin with, please, given the fact that 1 hour does go by pretty quickly. Please have your microphones turned off if you're not asking a question. And for any questions, please raise your hand virtually via the messenger service and let me know which news outlet you represent. We'll be kicking it off with James Swan giving some opening remarks, followed by Mr. Abdelmoula and Ms. Filipetto, and then the Q&A. So without any further ado, over to Mr. Swan.
Good morning and welcome. My name is James Swan, and I am the Special Representative of the UN Secretary General for Somalia. As we began to do last year, we plan periodic meetings with the press to update you on UN family activities and answer questions that you may have. Before turning to the work of the UN, I first want to begin by paying tribute to the courage and resilience of Somali citizens who have persevered through some of the toughest conditions in any country on the planet over the past 3 decades. While enormous challenges remain and the road ahead at times looks long and hilly, it is important to acknowledge the progress that has been made. If we look at a range of measures, governance, the functioning of national and federal member state institutions, private sector investment, public financial management, delivery of services, to name a few, Somalia begins 2021 in a better place than 2011, and a better place than 2001, and a better place than the end of January 1991. The United Nations in Somalia is engaged across many areas in support of the Somali people. There are more than 20 UN agencies, funds, and programs working shoulder to shoulder with Somalis on long-term development and immediate humanitarian needs. Many of these organizations are well known to you, from World Program assistance through food, cash, and vouchers to those in need, to World Health Organization support for COVID support over the past year, to United Nations Development Program aid for district councils, justice and corrections, and human rights initiatives, and many, many others. I'm pleased to be joined today by Deputy Special Representative Abdelmoula, who is also the Resident Coordinator and Humanitarian Coordinator, to discuss these development and humanitarian efforts in further detail. The United Nations in Somalia also includes the UN Support Office for Somalia, which provides logistical, transport, medical, and other support to UNSOM and to designated Somali security forces. It is a key UN contributor to security in Somalia. I'm pleased to be joined by Head of UNSOS, Lisa Filipetto, who will speak more to the work of this entity. Finally, there is the United Nations Assistance Mission for Somalia, which is a special political mission. It is mandated by the UN Security Council, among other tasks, to support development of Somali institutions, help Somali authorities coordinate international security support, and provide good offices to help Somalis resolve differences and continue progress on democratic reforms. In recent months, our Good Office's work has been focused particularly on advancing inclusive and credible elections. Along with other international partners, we have urged that Somalia's political leaders pursue dialogue and compromise to agree on implementation of the September 17 electoral agreement. In collective meetings with other international partners and in bilateral meetings, we have stressed the importance of reaching a common understanding on next steps prior to February 8th in order to avoid any uncertainty. In a statement issued January 12th and in subsequent meetings, international partners have underscored the importance of respecting the September 17th agreement. They've expressed their opposition to parallel or alternative processes, and they've made clear that there must be no violence. We continue to urge Somali leaders of goodwill to redouble their efforts to resolve the outstanding issues of implementation of the electoral process and resolve those issues through dialogue and to reach agreement on the way forward for the good of the country. Thank you very much. And now I turn the microphone to Adam Abdelmoula.
Thank you, SRSG Swan, and good morning, everyone. I would like to begin by giving you an overview of where Somalia is on the humanitarian front and the impact of the work we do together with our partners. Somalia began this year with a number of similar challenges that afflicted it in 2020. These are the so-called triple shock of climate change, recurring floods and droughts, a desert locust outbreak, and of course, the COVID-19 pandemic. On climate change, when Cyclone Gati struck in November, 120,000 people were affected in Puntland. People lost their homes and livelihoods, all of which had a knock-on effect on their health and well-being. We provided help to some 78,000 of them through nutrition supplies and food assistance. The desert locust infestation has lived up to its biblical connotations. This sort of plague has affected almost 700,000 people and close to 300,000 hectares of land across Somalia. We have so far provided support to about 25,900 farming households and sprayed more than 110,000 hectares of land with biopesticides. On the COVID-19 response, Somalia has a fragile health system which is still developing. We were able to buttress the government's health machinery with testing laboratories, specialized isolation centers, training of more than 5,000 frontline health workers, and the distribution of thousands of PPE sets. All of these steps have also had a longer-term impact. They have helped build and reinforce the health system, both improving the health of Somalis and helping train health ministry and medical personnel for the longer term. Education was another hard-hit system that was already fragile to begin with. In October alone, the UN responded by reaching out to at least 93,785 children, of whom 44,911 were girls, with education in emergency assistance, bringing the total number of children reached to 538,676, of whom 201,492 were girls. These are just some of the examples of where we have been able to make a small difference. But this is not about patting ourselves on the back or resting on any laurels. The factors that went into the triple shock have not gone away. In fact, they will exacerbate humanitarian needs this year. With our partners, we will need to step up these efforts in reaching the most vulnerable people affected. On the economic front, the triple shock has disrupted the trajectory of Somalia towards economic recovery. For example, reflecting gender inequalities in the country, women-owned businesses have been especially hard hit, with 98% reporting reduced income. But there are signs of hope. Somalia continues to make steady progress under the heavily indebted poor countries or HIPC initiative. Somalia's debt stood at 5.3 billion at the end of 2018. This debt will be reduced to 557 million if Somalia achieves the completion point expected in 2023. A very welcome guiding document for the UN family's overall support for Somalia this year and beyond is the UN Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework that we signed in October last year. This is the UN's multi-year strategic plan to guide our collective contribution to the realization of the Agenda 2030 of Sustainable Development in Somalia. This framework is built around 4 strategic priorities, which mirror the pillars of Somalia's National Development Plan 9, NDP 9. And those pillars are 1, inclusive politics and reconciliation, 2, security and rule of law, 3, economic development, and 4, social development. The UN remains steadfast in providing support to Somalia in 2021 to achieve a stable, peaceful, and prosperous society. I look forward to any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Adam. And now, if I could invite Lisa Filipetto, head of UNSOS, to make her opening remarks, and then we'll go to questions. Lisa?
Thank you very much, SRSG. Greetings to all participants. Happy New Year. I think I can still say that as it's January. I'm Lisa Filipetto. I'm Assistant Secretary General and Head of UNSOS, as the SRSG has said. And I'd like to give you a quick overview of what we are doing in Somalia and the impacts on Somalis. For those of you who don't know, UNSOS was established 11 years ago by the UN Security Council to provide logistics support to UNSOM when they were new in the field, as that was a big challenge. But since then, we've received additional responsibilities, including to the Somali security forces and also to UNSOM, and more generally to the UN family and international community. But our prime role really is to support Somalia's efforts to achieve peace, stability and developments for its people, with a particular focus on our contribution to the security space. So we have a range of mandated clients. The Somali security forces have been designated as one of our key clients. We currently support 11,000 Somali National Army in the field with logistical support. That includes food, fuel, water, some defensive construction equipment, tents, communications, and we're hoping to add another 3,000 to this number in the coming months, including 1,000 police. So we also help them with medivacs and Kazivacs from the battlefield, so we know the sacrifice that they are making in the field. And recently we've started a program on counter-IED training for them. Secondly, of course, we retain AMISOM as a key client. We support nearly 20,000 AMISOM military and police in the field, as I said, on the logistics side, non-lethal logistics side, and that has been a collaboration over many years, which we value. We also provide support to UNSOM, to the SRSG's mission, logistic and administrative support. That's always a great honour to help the UN family. And on occasions, we also help our development and humanitarian partners and also the international community. So where would most Somalis see the impact of UNSOS? I mean, I guess we contribute to the successes of AMISOM and the SNA as well. But if you see a UN plane flying, that's an UNSOS effort. We maintain and manage all our fleet. The fleet conveys cargo and people around the country. We also do the medical evacuations, including from the battlefield. So that's an important function that we play. And as occasion arises, we have supported humanitarian efforts. For example, last year with COVID-19, we transported medical equipment for the federal government of Somalia when they're a little bit stuck. And also we do it for humanitarian agencies, including last year with the Belatwain flooding. So we are, I guess, the providers of, if not always the first resort, sometimes the last resort when there are no other capabilities, our aviation fleet assists. You may have also seen the impact of our efforts in construction. We have built the UNSOM sector hubs around the country, the UN facilities and offices in various parts of Somalia. We maintain those facilities, which are also enjoyed by the international community who travel around. For example, if you're traveling to Baidoa, you may travel on a UN plane. If you're in the international community, you'll probably have meetings in the UN facilities, which we manage. So that's the construction aspect of our work is a big one. And then I guess on the aviation front, we're also upgrading a couple of runways, the Baidoa and Bella Twain airstrips. We are upgrading them, although we're not responsible really for developing those runways. We acknowledge that we are users of them, and we hope that in upgrading those airstrips, commercial operators can also use them, which will benefit Somalis. So our camps are located in all of the states, where UNSOM is, which does not include Puntland. And we travel regularly, not only to the 6 sector hubs of UNSOM, but also we provision 76 other locations around the country. But finally, I guess we wouldn't be able to do this without very strong partnerships that we have with the federal government of Somalia, with federal member states, with UNSOM, the African Union, and our UN colleagues. It's very much a collaborative effort to heavy lift all the logistics that's required for nearly 30,000 troops in the battlefield. And, we see ourselves as part of transition. Eventually, we hope that there won't be need for our services, and when the Somali security forces take over the lead for security, they'll manage this themselves. So I would just finally say that I'm very proud that all of the UNSOS staff are very committed to their work in contributing to peace and security in Somalia, and look forward to questions. Thank you.
Let me just make one final comment, again, picking up on Lisa's point that there's a heavy emphasis on partnership in all that we're doing with the Somali authorities at the national level, the federal member state level, and in communities in many areas. I also want to stress that ultimately the work of the United Nations is an expression of objectives communicated by the broader international community. The 2 missions, UNSOM and UNSOS, are both UN Security Council mandated missions that again express the intent, the will, and the expectations of the Security Council on behalf of the international community. Most of the programmatic work is funded through generous contributions by donor countries that have expressed eagerness to contribute to progress in Somalia and use UN entities as a vehicle for channeling that support to Somalis. So really, while we speak of the United Nations, in this case, it genuinely does represent a broader commitment of the international community through our organization to help the Somali people. Let me turn it over to Ari to manage the questions.
Good morning, folks. A quick reminder, please raise your virtual hands if you have any questions to ask us. Raise your virtual hand so we know which order to ask the questions. Our first question goes to Evelyn Kahunga of Al Jazeera. Evelyn, over to you.
Good morning. My question is to the SRSG, and it's about the election, which are meant to happen on the 8th or by the 8th. Are you confident that the players or that Somalia can hold a credible election? And we've been hearing about a lot of armed clan sort of movement around the candidates of their choice, threats by political players to hold parallel sort of elections if Armajo and his government doesn't hold one. Are you confident that we will see a peaceful election on the 8th?
First of all, there's been great effort by the UN system, but also by many international partners to engage the full array of key Somali political leaders in recent months. I have recently traveled to a number of the federal member states for direct conversations with their leaders. We've had bilateral meetings with senior Somali officials, including the president, the prime minister, ministers, key opposition figures. In addition to those bilateral contacts, we have met collectively as international partners with many of them, also visited federal member states with AU, EU, and IGAD. So there has been a serious effort to engage all the players, encourage them to seek common ground, encourage them to pursue dialogue and compromise, encourage them to be imaginative in finding ways to overcome obstacles to proceeding with implementation of the electoral process. I believe there are many Somali political leaders of goodwill who are actively exploring ways that they could reach agreement on proceeding with implementation. As I noted, the international partners have been vocal in their eagerness for an agreement on the way forward, not a parallel process, not alternative means of advancing. In this regard, I do want to emphasize, I think what is eagerly desired is agreement on the way forward prior to February 8th. I think it's evident that because of the multi-stage system for organizing Somali elections, in which there must be initially elections, electoral processes to select the Senate, and an electoral process to select delegates who in turn elect members of parliament, and then both the Senate and the lower house, the House of the People, are to come together to choose the president. It seems very likely this will extend for some additional period of time. What's important, we think, is to have an agreement on the way forward so that everyone can be confident in what the process entails. That's very much what we're encouraging. Fundamentally, it will be up to Somali leaders to make those determinations, but we very much hope they'll continue to pursue dialogue, pursue compromise, and seek to find a solution. That will also be the best way to reduce the risk of violence or disruption by those who may feel disadvantaged or left out of the process.
Folks, our next question goes to Ruben Kiyama of Voice of America. Ruben, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. My question goes to the special representative. Sir, in your bilateral meeting with the Somali leaders, did you discuss the tensions between Kenya and Somalia? And what is your message to the leadership of the two East African nations?
We have certainly share views that have been expressed by others in the region, including senior leaders from the African Union, that de-escalation and restraint would be desirable along the border between Somalia and Kenya. International partners have in fact communicated over the past year on several occasions, urging restraint, urging de-escalation in Ghetto, along the border, and in regard to potential regional aspects of differences in that area. We have obviously seen the reports of recent incidents. We are, of course, alarmed at the news of civilians who have been killed or injured in these incidents. I would note that in December, there were concerns raised by the Somali authorities. These were then taken up at the Heads of State and Government Summit of the Intergovernmental Authority on Development. That summit meeting charged President Ismail Omar Guelleh of Djibouti with organizing a fact-finding mission to examine those concerns and to return with both details and an assessment of what had happened and also recommendations for the way forward. So we look forward to hearing from IGAD on these issues. It is being addressed by a sub-regional organization, in this case IGAD, and we believe that's a helpful way to try to understand the details of what occurred and also hear a recommendation from this organization on how to proceed.
Folks, our next question comes from Nick Perry of Agence France Presse. Nick, over to you.
Hi there. I have a question for Special Representative Swan as well. You mentioned that it's expected that the election process could extend for a considerable period of time, I think was your quote, because of the complexity of the electoral system in Somalia. Is it fair to say then, sir, that you do not expect there to be a vote before February 8? And if not, could you give us some idea of a timeline for when you would think that we could see an inclusive and credible vote recognised by the member states? Thank you.
As I explained, this is a multi-stage process in which it starts with the election of upper house seats as well as lower house or House of the People seats. But this is a somewhat complicated endeavor. No elections have yet been scheduled at those levels. And even once they are completed, additional time would be required to seat the members, swear in everyone for the House of the People and the upper house. I do not know exactly how long that will take. And only after that would the second stage of the process, that is the indirect election of the president by the upper house and lower house meeting in joint session. My point really is that what is most important is not ensuring that the electoral process is fully completed by February 8th, which seems unrealistic at this time, but rather to ensure that there is a common understanding by key Somali leaders about how this process is going to unfold and how it will proceed until it reaches its conclusion. And that's where international partners have spoken very clearly with one voice on the importance of an agreement that includes the key stakeholders, that is based on the September 17 model signed by the president and the 5 federal member state leaders, so that this process can go forward. I think that's what we're placing greatest emphasis on at the moment, reaching agreement on how the process will advance so that any uncertainty can be minimized.
Folks, our next question goes to Kara Anna of AP. Kara, over to you.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for this. Again, from Mr. Swan. Will the UN recognize the results of an election in which all regional states don't take part? And what kind of punishment might follow a vote that goes ahead as incomplete? Thanks.
I think the partners have been quite clear that they believe that it is important that there be an agreement on the way forward. And as the statement issued on January 12th noted, this is important to proceed with a credible electoral process. I think we would have to see what develops in terms of the specifics of this going forward. We continue to urge all possible efforts and indeed redoubled initiatives and creative thinking to ensure that there is an agreement that everyone can subscribe to that would allow for the elections to proceed with a collective commitment to the rules of the game and to the outcome that will emerge from that. But we're not at a place right now where international partners have taken a stance in terms of what would be the specific response to different scenarios. But we are actively urging, encouraging, and supporting the parties to reach an agreement so that all can participate in the electoral process.
Folks, we have one more question in the pipeline, so please, any further questions, let me know as soon as possible on the messenger service here. Otherwise, we now turn to Mohammed Douale, our Horn diplomat. Mohammed, over to you.
From Horn, I want to ask you, Mr. Ambassador, the question between ties between Somalia and Somalia, relations between Somalia and Somalia. In 2018, it remained tense. National actors are leading P45 dialogue between the two sides, but the effort is not a success. What is your position on that, Mr. Ambassador?
Thank you. I'm not sure I heard the full question, but what I think you are asking is about the status of discussions between Hargeisa and Mogadishu. I would note only that, of course, the Musa Bihi and Mohammed Abdullahi Mohammed Farmajo met in Djibouti last June, hosted by President Ismail Omar Guelleh, and with support from other regional leaders and some key international partners. We welcomed that meeting, as did many other international actors. There was a subsequent program of discussions planned as an outcome of that. However, for a variety of reasons, that program of discussion does not appear to be continuing at this point. We would continue to support discussions and dialogue between those entities so that some agreements can be reached on the way forward for them. We think this is a useful initiative, and that that continued communication would be very helpful. So I think that is the status at this point. You obviously could ask the Somali land authorities or the Mogadishu, the government of Somalia, for its views on the next steps. But our understanding is those discussions are on hold at the moment. But we would certainly welcome continued communication to find a way forward.
Folks, our next question goes back to Nick Perry of Agence France Presse. Nick, back to you.
Thank you very much. Just one more, if I could, for Mr. Swan. If the indirect presidential election does not occur by February 7 as expected, does that mean, could you just explain what that means in terms of President Farmajo's mandate? If it expires, does that mean he continues to hold office until an election occurs? And does UNSOM see this creating a credibility issue or risk of insecurity in Somalia? Thank you.
In October, Parliament adopted a resolution that even at the expiry of the mandates, both for Parliament and for the President, that the incumbents would remain in place until successors are elected. This would perhaps be subject to some discussion by legal scholars, but there appears to be a strong legal basis for continuity in office. I think the concern is more what the political reaction may be. And I can tell you that in discussions really with a very wide range of actors here, within government circles, federal member states, both those more critical of the central government and those more tightly allied with the central government, with political candidates, presidential candidates, and others, civil society, I think there is concern that going beyond February 8th without a clear agreement takes us into unpredictable territory, and that it would be far preferable to have an agreement prior to the 8th of February so that everyone is on the same page, has the same vision, viewpoint, agreement on the rules of the game as this process continues. So our assessment is the concern is less a legal concern, but more one of avoiding an unpredictable political situation in a country where we certainly don't need any more of that.
Folks, our next question goes to Ali Hussein Sahal of Horn Connect. Ali, over to you. Ali? Ali, we might come back to you. In that case, we'll skip over now to...
Hello.
Oh,
Hello, do you hear
Thank
me?
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can.
I would like to ask Ambassador James Swan, in case every option fails in the current process to Somalia's election, and the disagreement between parties stand, what could be the UN in Somalia's what will UN in Somalia do? What clear actions will they take? If there are any, can the ambassador explain?
We are focused at the moment, along with other partners, on making every effort to support a Somali initiative to resolve the current political impasse. I have been in very frequent consultation with federal member state leaders, and I am encouraged that several of them are working hard to look for solutions. These are their initiatives, these are their ideas, these are their solutions. But what we are trying to do is encourage that. We're trying to offer suggestions. We're offering, obviously, support should good ideas emerge that can be embraced by all of the key Somali political stakeholders. We've also continued to maintain very frequent contact with the senior levels of the federal government to continue to urge also efforts, initiatives to overcome these continued impasses in moving ahead with the electoral process. So we really are seeking to give every opportunity and encourage every opportunity by the Somali leadership to overcome these differences and take action really in the coming few days so that answers can be found, solutions can be found well before the 8th of February. That's our emphasis right now. We're very eager that this continue to be what it has been, a Somali-led process. This is a sovereign country. This is a set of Somali initiatives. The September 17 agreement represented a Somali political consensus on how to move forward. We're very confident that they, within the Somali political leadership, should be able to do this. And that's very much what we're encouraging at this time.
Folks, our next question goes back to Kara Anna of AP. Kara, over to you.
Hi, thank you again. What are the leaders who refuse to participate in the election telling you? I mean, what exactly do they want to see before taking part in it? Thanks.
Yeah. There are three specific baskets of issues that are in the process of being discussed. One involves the selection of the committee that is to choose the seats from, or the seats for the communities from Somaliland who would be represented in the national parliament. The second is a set of issues around the appointment of the election management bodies and some accusations that certain appointees do not meet the appropriate criteria for inclusion in those election management bodies. And there is this third set of issues around the conduct of the electoral process in Garbahare, in Ghetto region of Jubaland. There are many informal discussions that have gone on over a number of months and are continuing over how to resolve these three baskets of issues. And from our consultations with a wide array of actors, we believe that, in fact, solutions on these three issues remain within grasp and indeed are quite close, if it would be possible for the key actors to come together and reach a final decision on these topics. So those remain the specific issues that are under discussion and that have continued to hold up forward movement. I think more broadly, sadly, there is a current climate of mistrust among many of Somalia's top political leaders. And the challenge to some degree is how to overcome that mistrust at this time, allow everyone to move forward together, address these specific issues that have solutions, and be able to move forward collectively on an agreed plan to get to the completion of the electoral process based on rules that everyone supports.
Folks, so far we have 2 more questions to go, so please a reminder to raise your e-hand if you have any questions, and please lower your e-hand if you no longer have a question to ask. Our next question, though, goes to Evelyn Kahunga of Al Jazeera. Evelyn, over to you.
Thank you. Again to SRSG. In my first question, I asked about arming elements arming themselves ahead of the elections. Some think tanks and researchers have been warning that clan militias are sort of organizing around the election. Are you worried about this? And actually, yesterday, the government did issue a statement claiming that some people are trying to bring in weapons, high caliber weapons. Is this worrying to you and your team?
We've seen those reports, and I think this underscores why there's a strong message from ourselves and from other international partners discouraging recourse to violence, discouraging use of violence to pursue political aims. We don't want to see that happen, and we are urging that those approaches not be pursued. It underscores that it's important that there be broad political agreement on how to move forward, and that in the absence of political agreement on how to move forward, additional risks will multiply. That's why we're eagerly encouraging the Somali political leadership to seek solutions, to be creative, to make compromises, to pursue dialogue, and to reach an agreement that will get us through the coming period without violence.
Folks, unless more hands are raised, we have 1 more question to go, and that's to Mohammed Douale of Horn Diplomat. Mohammed, over to you. Mohammed?
Ambassador, thank you so much. I have a question about and Sol region. Some organizations are called a disputed area, and all humanitarian support not the region on like other regions. This region is stable and have right to humanitarian support. What is the UN region?
It was a little bit difficult to hear, but I think if I understood correctly, you were asking about delivery of humanitarian support to remote areas or difficult to access areas, and what is being done to ensure that that gets through. Is that correct?
Yes, Ambassador.
Okay, well, I'm going to invite Adam Abdelmoula, who's also the humanitarian coordinator, to respond. Adam?
Yeah, well, it depends on the type of humanitarian assistance that that we deliver in those hard to reach areas or inaccessible areas because of security. For certain activities, such as vaccination, for instance, we use local partners who know how to negotiate their way to those remote areas and hard to reach or insecure areas. For others, we establish centers where the beneficiaries themselves come to areas that are relatively accessible and secure. Also, we employ imaginative ways of delivering aid directly to the beneficiaries, such as cash transfers through mobile phones. And that also includes connecting the beneficiaries who receive that kind of mobile money with traders who then deliver the aid directly to the beneficiaries, and it's only upon delivery that the beneficiaries pay the traders. So there are so many different ways of reaching the communities and the beneficiaries in those areas. Other times we use the mediation of community leaders and clan elders to facilitate the work of our local partners who are in the front lines.
Folks, we've come to the end of our questions, so please, unless there are any further questions, I'd like to thank Mr. Swan, Mr. Abdelmoula, and Ms. Filipetto and yourselves for your time this morning. We look forward to having these happen more regularly. Until then, thank you very much. I'll just cross over quickly to Mr. Swan for any last comments, unless you have anything.
No, only to thank everyone for participating. I should emphasize that one of our core messages surrounding the upcoming electoral process is also the critical importance of protecting political space. And that means freedom to organize, it means freedom to speak. It obviously entails the ability of media organs to continue to function and to broadcast issues that are of interest and concern to them. So we also do think that it's important to have these sorts of exchanges, also to underscore the importance of openness to the media and the significant role that media organs will be playing during this upcoming electoral process.
We have one last minute question from Kara of AP regarding COVID-19. Kara, over to you.
Oh, thank you for that. I think we're just curious how any COVID vaccines will be administered in areas held controlled by Al-Shabaab. Thanks.
Again, I might turn this over to Adam, but Somalia is one of the countries that will be covered by the COVAX global program, which will authorize shipment and delivery to Somalia of vaccines to cover 20% of the population, which is approximately 3 million people. We're in the process now within the UN system of organizing ourselves to be prepared to receive these upcoming vaccine shipments, which are unlikely to start before March at the earliest. We've also been in touch with the Somali government to emphasize that there will be a need for very close coordination and indeed leadership on the Somali government side, but it has been raised at senior levels of the Somali government. A plan for delivery is being developed, and it will no doubt target as beneficiaries those who can be accessed. And those who are in areas difficult to access will likely be in a more challenging circumstance in terms of receiving the vaccine. Unfortunately, this is a problem that extends across our humanitarian support efforts here. But indeed, this is moving forward. Somalia is eligible under COVAX, and we are working with the government on preparing plans for receipt of the vaccine, delivery and distribution.
Folks, we're at the end of the press conference in this case. So once again, thank you for your time. There will be a recording and a transcript shared later today with you for your coverage. And once again, thank you for your time. We look forward to doing more of these in the future. Have a lovely day. Thank you.